welcome to The Dog Dialectic. I'm your host, Ashley Jacobson, and I'm here with Kelly Ortega. And today we are going to be talking about dog trainer red flags. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've seen recently in the news, some of the horror stories we've heard from other trainers in the area or across the nation, and hopefully help you make sure you are finding the right trainer for you. Before I get into that, I want to go over a couple of updates. We are going to be pretty busy this summer with our competitions. We're going to be doing a bunch of dock diving events and some other fun seminars that we're going to be going to. So we might have a couple days we will be closed, but other than that, we are in full swing with our board and train, day schools, private lessons. Virtual training is always an option as well. So if you're not in the Sanford, North Carolina area, you can always sign up for virtual training, virtual coaching. Just hit us up. You can schedule all of your training online at www.airbornek9.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, before we get into anything else, don't forget we do carry all of the Dakota 283 kennels. We carry all the eCollar Technologies products. We also carry Mendota, Kurgo, PetSafe, Dogtra, and a number of other products. So if there's anything you need, don't hesitate to check us out, and we can definitely get that for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So Kelly, let's start with a horror story that you have heard or seen or know of that you would like to share with maybe some of our average pet owners who aren't as in tune with what's going on in the dog training world.
Like a real life one or like an example one?
A real life one.
A real life, because I know there was one recently.
Yeah?
Yeah. Which it was, so I have this weird skill of getting vibes from people, and my vibes are usually correct, and I know that sounds like stupid, but like I just like meet someone and I'm like, there's something weird. But obviously I can't come up to you and be like, this person gives me weird vibes, because that just makes me look like a bad person if it's not true.
True, yeah.
Plus, like, you're going to meet a lot of people in life that give you weird vibes, and you can't, you have to learn to, like, just work around it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this individual did give me kind of weird vibes. But again, I didn't say anything about it, maintaining professional, whatever, lifestyle. I mean, I don't know him that well.
Right.
So, I actually met her before, like, very briefly, didn't really, like, talk to them. But it came out in the news that there were multiple dogs that died. Mm-hmm. And, like, the part that freaks me out was the freezer. There was a dog in the freezer, and, like, do you just reach around that for your, like, frozen leftovers?
So let's talk about, like, how did dogs that were in the care of a trainer die? What happened? How did they die?
I think it's just careless recklessness, and honestly, like, from the footage that I saw on Facebook, and I always, like, look at things on the internet with the thought of, yes, that could be cherry picked, absolutely. Like, still though, the footage I saw online was very, dirty, everything. It just looked very grimy and untaken care of. And to me, if you're not taking care of your house and your property and your kennels aren't, obviously clean, you're probably going to transfer that to the dogs too. That carelessness will carry over no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of what played a part. I think they're saying the dogs died of heat stroke, mm-hmm. I believe, right now.
Yeah, it looks like at least one of the dogs almost definitely had heat stroke. And North Carolina in the summer, like, that is something that we're always very cautious about, is the temperature of the dog's living space and where the dogs are being held. So, we're, in this case, the owner was willing to share their videos and their, like, of what was going on. They videotaped their interaction when they went to go get their dog, who was in the video still, like, lying there dead in the kennel. And, the interaction they had with the trainer, talking to her and trying to figure out what happened and, what the story was. And it was devastating. It was just absolutely devastating, because you could hear, one of the owners, like there was, as a married couple, one of the owners was kind of like freaking out. The other one was trying to ask questions while videotaping, and like it was just terrible. And thankfully they were smart enough to go around and like take video of the rest of the property, which was kind of nasty and gross and disgusting, and not somewhere you really want your dog to be living. You don't want your child to be living there. You wouldn't want your dog to live there.
And it's free to be clean. Like I'm not saying you have to have like the most expensive $1,000 kennels, but you can keep your cheap kennels clean.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's free.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, I remember like I just had like a half a dozen cheap wire kennels, but I got them used off of the internet, and I would, even though they were used, I would scrub them and clean them, and even though they were cheap or even free, it's about maintaining a professional appearance. And the thing was, like, you could tell in those pictures, those videos, it was gross.
Honestly, I feel like, I take care of my personal dogs very well, so I don't want it to sound like I don't take care of my personal dogs, but I feel like I go above and beyond for my client dogs a little bit more than I do even my personal dogs. Like, more potty breaks. They usually go potty first. I'm always very, like, hyper vigilant with the client dogs because, it's not just my dog that I know she's fine, she's doing whatever, but like someone's trusting me with that animal, and I know how like devastating that's gotta feel for like you're trusting a professional person to improve your dog's life, and then they're just crashing it right then and there.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, like, I am so paranoid because I've seen, I've been at this now like 3.5, almost 4 years now, and in that time, being a professional dog trainer, you're much more privy and in tune to what's going on in the dog training world. And so I am so much more aware of all the terrible things that can happen, the dog trainers who are out there, because there's a lot of dog trainers out there who are making terrible mistakes, but somehow keeping it out of the public eye.
Yeah.
But thankfully, like in the dog training community, it's a small community, and that information still gets around. So we kind of know what's going on. And I've heard so many horror stories that like I don't want to be that next person. One, I don't want to be responsible for hurting or harming a dog. But two, like you're done. Your reputation's over. You'll never work again in dog training.
Yeah.
Questionably, but still, like, you just don't want to do that. It's just bad.
What I know, like the case we're talking about, the individual had a couple dogs like previously go missing in their care too, and that's
quote unquote.
Yeah, kind of murder mystery right there.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't joke like that, but how like. It's just once, like, I can be like, oh my gosh, that's really upsetting. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Shit happens. But it's the multiple that I'm like fencing.
Yeah.
Buy a fence.
we're gonna talk a lot today about, not saying that we're the absolute 100% the best you could possibly ever get, but we are probably among the most heavily safety-driven dog trainers that I have yet to interact with. We have more safety precautions in place than any other dog trainer I have yet to meet. And I'm gonna do a little plug here. It is definitely the product of my time at the Star Mark Academy. When I was going through there, they had a business, like how to run a dog training business, and they went through a whole list of recommended safety conditions, like separate water bowls and secure kennels and all sorts of stuff. And then from there I took that list and just continued to add to it.
Yeah.
And it has just been so helpful to have those in place, and we're going to talk about a lot of those. But hindsight's a little 20/20, and it's funny because if you look at the post or look at this case, the situation, one, the trainer is gone. They're in the wind. They've just left the state. They're gone. No one knows where they went. And so that's terrible, first off. But they did previous posts where they were saying like, yeah, this dog got lost. It got loose, got out, got slipped out of their kennel, whatever, and took off. And then another dog was quote unquote stolen, right? Like, if you've lost a training dog, first off, that'd be the end. That'd be the end of my career if that ever happened to me, and which is why we take so many safety precautions to prevent that from happening. But then to not too long after have a dog get quote unquote stolen, like really? Who's just coming onto your property and just stealing dogs?
I mean, not to mention the excuse for why the dogs overheated was a dog slipped out of the kennel and, like, destroyed the AC unit.
Right.
Which, like, why wasn't the dog secure in a kennel? And, like, why, like, our training area right now, we have that little emergency thing that will send an alert if the garage gets to a certain temperature. Because we do work out of, the garage.
Mm-hmm. So, a lot of the tragedies we've been hearing in the dog world recently have to do with dogs overheating. And so several of the safety precautions we've put in place is that in our training space, 1, there is a window AC unit. 2, there are multiple fans on the dogs. 3, the dogs have they're in a 4x6 run that has an elevated place bed, which is going to, 1, keep them cooler just in of itself. But underneath that elevated place bed is concrete, which also stays very cool. And just in case all else fails, in there is a Wi-Fi, emergency temperature monitor. So that way, if, God forbid, the temperature ever rises above 90, I'm going to get an alert on my phone. So it doesn't matter where I am. If I had to run out and get groceries and suddenly, like, the garage is on fire, that's going to tell me.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's always nice to try and learn from other people's mistakes. And, it sucks that these tragedies have to happen for us to really take this sort of thing so seriously, but I just feel like people aren't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big thought I had too, is like, yeah, this is terrible, and like there's a ton of terrible stuff that happens with dog training. But, don't just take it as an opportunity to go, let's bash this person, whatever. Take it as, what can I do with my situation to make sure this doesn't happen to me? Yeah. How can I be a little bit safer because of this person's mistake? Mm-hmm. Just to kind of protect ourselves.
Yep. Yeah, and, I don't know. I hope all of my friends are listening to our podcast, but I'm sure if my friends are listening to this podcast, they're going to know about some of these situations. 1, because almost all of my friends are dog trainers, so they're all in the loop as well. But 2, on the competitive side of dog training, when you start to get into working dogs, you'll find that, like, the death toll rises because people, I don't know, if they just have a lower standard of general health and safety for their working dogs, or maybe we're just putting our dogs in more dangerous situations, or high-risk situations, let's say. So, aside from this one, like, the all in all of what had happened is the client dogs were in a fairly small kennel, like crates, inside of a non-insulated, like, work shed. And they had like a small little window AC unit that apparently stopped working for whatever reason, or wasn't turned on, or who knows what. And the dogs just, died of heat stroke.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there was other issues with, like, dogs disappearing, and they found a dead dog in their deep freezer, and God, it's just so many horrible things. But, there's also been other trainers that similar things have happened to. And the thing is that, like, when heat injuries are so preventable.
Yeah.
They're so preventable. Like, I've had dogs come in who I get nervous because they come in knowingly having some type of health condition that could eventually become life-threatening. We did a weekend boarding thing for a couple client dogs, and one of them had a massive tumor, and we know that the dog is nearing end of life. I was terrified that dog would, have a situation and, get sick while they were here from a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
And, like, that would be something that's unpreventable, right, if that had happened. But things like heat stroke, that is so preventable.
Yes.
And you just have to, like, care enough to take care of the dogs.
I feel like part of it, going back to what you said about the working dog thing, I feel like when you get super deep in the working dogs, they start becoming a little more of, like, animals rather than pets, like farm animal kind of vibes.
Equipment animals.
Yeah, they're equipment animals, because, I mean, you're not going to go cuddle the police dog, I mean, we might, but...
Everybody wants to.
Everyone wants to, but, I feel like there's definitely, like, a brain split between the pet dog and then the working dog.
Yeah.
And then that's what I think leads to that little bit of carelessness, because we're like, this is somebody's like heart and soul that we're training right now.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, a little bit different.
Yeah, it's more like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
Right? All right, so working dogs, when we're talking about working dogs, we're also including kind of like sport dogs and things like that. So when we get into the working dog, sport dog world, these are people who tend to do more stuff with their dogs on a regular basis, meaning traveling with their dogs, going to events with their dogs. And, it's something that we do, and so it's something we have some experience with. And at most of these types of events, even like, if we go to like a sport events like dock diving or fast cat or agility, a lot of people are, keeping their dogs in their cars at these events, which, I know there's this big thing like, don't leave your dog in a hot car, which totally agree. Don't leave your dog in a hot car. But there are plenty of ways to keep your car as a shelter for your dog without allowing it to get too hot. Now, there are temperature monitors that can go in your car that have their own data signal. I think there's one made by Waggle. It might even be on sale right now. But that'll monitor the temperature inside your dog crate, inside your car, not inside your dog. Sorry. Inside your dog's crate or inside your car. And then, you can also, what I do is I put a sunshade over my car, which is this big illuminate type thing that reflects the sun, because I have a black car. And so that helps my car from getting too hot. And then I also have fans that I put right on my dog's kennels, which is going to be circulating the air into my kennels as well. I also park my car with all of my doors open. So front doors, back doors, trunk, everything's going to be wide open so that the air is just flowing right through there. So essentially the car is just acting as a sunshade for my dogs. If you're ever like worried that someone's going to steal your wallet out of your car, take your wallet out of your car, right? I mean, if the keys aren't in there, there's nothing that they're going to steal, so...
Or go on Amazon, get yourself some working canine stickers, and stick them all over your car, because no one will mess with your dog if they think it will bite them.
Exactly.
That's my little life hack. Don't break into my car. I've got stickers on it.
I love it. Hey, it works, I think.
I hope.
At my old house, I used to live in a subdivision, and there was a rampant string of people breaking into people's cars at night. And I never had anyone try to break into my car. I have security cameras up, but I've never even seen suspicious activity. But it also says working canine all down the side of my car, and I always post on social media all the working dog stuff I do.
It also looks like a cop car too.
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't break into a cop car.
Yeah, probably not. So, but regardless, there have been several instances of dog deaths at events where this is kind of the norm, where we kind of keep our dogs in their cars during the event. Now, the shitty thing is, the horrible part about it is the fact that everyone at these events, takes these measures. If you go to a dog event, you'll see just lines of cars with these illuminates over them, and if you don't know anything about the dog training world, you think it's a sci-fi convention or an alien invasion or something like that. And it just looks ridiculous. But everyone knows that these are the precautions you have to take to keep your dog safe.
Yeah.
And anytime I've gone to a seminar in the summer and it's been hot out, if my dog's been in the car, I always make sure that every break, which usually they give you a break every hour or so, I'm going checking on my dog, giving them water, making sure the fan is still on, making sure if it needs a fresh battery, I put that in there, making sure they're not panting, if they need potty breaks, whatever.
Yeah.
But again, it's just going the extra mile.
Well, I think it's important too to realize when it's too much. Yeah, we have all these precautions. We have the aluminum net and all that stuff, but at a certain temperature, it's just going to be too much. And we're pretty good at we check the weather, and it's are we going to be able to compare to this heat or not? Because I'd rather my dog stay home than cook.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's partly why we have canceled our group classes, is because we don't have a shady outdoor area that we can use. And even at 6 o'clock at night right now, it's still just too hot if we're just standing out in the sunlight for an hour with the dogs. And I know we're in the Black Dog Club, so all of our dogs are black. And so they really struggle in this heat as well. So even when we're like doing stuff, not just keeping our dogs in the kennels, it can be really, they can get too hot too fast for sure.
Yeah. I don't think there's such thing as being too paranoid with dogs. Like, I'm constantly, like, I have dreams that stuff happens and I have to wake up and go check on the dogs. Like, I'm always like hyper paranoid about everything.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to them.
I have security cameras on my dog kennels that are in my house with my AC set to 68.
I have, well, everything's packed up in my house right now, but I had one that was like the Scooter watch cam, like one of those national park ones, so I could see what Scooter, my older dog, was doing at all times.
You just watch him sleeping on the couch.
Literally just watching him sleep on the couch. Yeah. That was it.
I love it. I love it. But yeah. So there was another story about a trainer, and the thing is, like, when we're talking about like actual dog trainers, most of the time when we're talking about like the working dogs and the working dog events, we're not talking about like professional dog trainers. It's more like sport enthusiasts. But there is another actual professional dog trainer who had a dog die of heat stroke because the dog was in the garage with no AC, nothing like that. And the dog died. Now, the reason why this story, like, it stands out to me is because that trainer also had a dog previously get a serious injury in her care. And when we're starting to see like repeat events, that's where you start to have like big red flags.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, accidents are going to happen. You work with enough dogs, something's going to happen. A dog might get injured, a dog might get hurt, and you know, might be out of your control, might be just a fluke, an accident, who knows what. Like, I've had dogs come into my care who came in with Giardia. I had one dog came in with Giardia. I had one dog come in with kennel cough. And when they come in with it, there was nothing I could do about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to send the dog home. But, you know, who knows? Maybe the dog is going to get their toe stuck in the door of the kennel or something like that because they're scratching at it. You can't really prevent that. Who knows? You know, it could happen.
Yeah.
But, like, when you're seeing things like this happen repetitively in a serious way, like, huge red flags.
Yes. Or if I find too, like, it can be like a non-large news event. It can be a local thing that you don't know about. And if your trainer, you know, of course there's many reasons for this, but if your trainer has lived in like many different places, and of course, again, there are many reasons for this, because I'm thinking in my head right now, I'm a military spouse and I'm going to be living in many different places. Yep. It's not a choice thing. Well, it is, but you know, it isn't. You know, maybe look into why they moved. You know, is it something like military and stuff, or they just didn't like where they were living, or are they running from reputation? Because it will catch up eventually.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's, like, apparently, you know, with the first story that we were talking about, that was kind of the case. Like, the person had moved from, you know, from Washington State, I think, where they were previously. I don't know the whole story, so there's a little bit of speculation, but apparently there was something else going on there, which is why they ended up moving to the East Coast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really scary to think that happens. But again, the dog training community is so small.
Yeah. I mean, and like, there's enough people, at least I know, like, I choose to surround myself with like people that know more than me, because then I learn more, because I'm selfish that way. But, you know, when you're experienced enough, you can look at someone training the dog and be like, what the heck is going on here? And you'll kind of look at it a little bit closer. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, whether or not you're purely positive, balanced, whatever, you should have a good enough understanding of things like operant conditioning and classical conditioning to be like, okay, they're doing this because of that, even if you don't think it works very well. But it's going to give you a little more of insight.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I said this to you too. You know, you get to a certain point where you can tell in the first 10 seconds of a person handling a dog whether, or like, what experience level they're at.
Yeah.
I had a really bad experience with hiring a trainer one time. This is back when I was brand new in the industry, had just kind of started, and it was kind of at the end of COVID, or like still towards the beginning of COVID, I guess. But I needed trainers. Like, I had a huge facility that could, you know, work upwards of like a dozen or a dozen and a half dogs. but I didn't have the humans to actually be there to do the work. And so I had a trainer who was in a prestigious dog training school. And I'm like, hey, you're in this school. Like, they're amazing, I hear. Like, they are, God's gift to dog training. Let me hire you. And they came and to work for me without me actually ever seeing them work with a dog. And I'm like, here's your first client dog. And I saw them take the dog for the first session. And I was like, oh, I fucked up.
Give it back.
I made a mistake. But I'd already, hired this person. I was like, oh, no. And so I tried so hard to, coach them without making it sound like they didn't know what they were doing, because they were pretty confident in their abilities.
Yeah.
Having graduated a dog training school, but, yeah. It was a mistake. But you can tell, pretty fast whether someone knows what they're doing or not with a dog.
I mean, I could read an anatomy textbook and tell you I'm a doctor. I might be able to find your appendix, but I also might take something else out, too.
Right? Oh, man. So, okay. So, that being said, there's a lot of bad trainers out there. The horrible part about it is the fact that, bad dog trainers can still make a lot of money.
Yeah.
What that means, bad dog trainers can still get clients.
Especially with social media, which we talked about a lot last night, too.
Mm-hmm. It's very easy to curate, your social media posts to make you look amazing.
Yeah.
To make it look like everything you do just turns to gold, and every dog you touch is fantastic, and every place your dogs are training is beautiful and sunshine and green grass. But, if all you're ever seeing is them training at, public places, at a public park or a field that looks like it's a high school baseball field or something like that, and you never actually see, a dog inside their home, I would start to ask some questions.
Yeah.
I try to post as many kind of raw footage videos as I can of our space, because I put a lot of effort into keeping all of our training spaces clean, clear of clutter, free of, any pee, poo, messes, saliva, bugs, you name it.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it looks bad on social media, which it does, but it's because of the health and safety of the dogs.
Yeah.
I always invite all of our clients to come, one, for our consultations, one, because I'm lazy and I don't want to go to your house. So save me some time and come to my house. But there's a lot of good reasons why I do that too. There's a lot of other reasons, not just because I don't want to go to your house. But one, you need to see where your dog is going to be staying. And, I'm probably going to get a little kickback from some of the other trainers in our area, because there's a lot of trainers in our area who do not allow clients to come to their house. And, some of these dog trainers I know personally, and they're fantastic trainers. I understand people want to keep their privacy, and I would trust them. But for a client who doesn't know any better, how are they supposed to trust you when you say you can't come to my house, you can't see where your dog is staying, you can't even know the address of where your dog is staying?
Yeah.
That would scare the crap out of me.
Well, and with the whole safety thing in mind, I know we do free consultations, and I feel like that is fairly standard for the industry. Just have your consultation somewhere public, and then if you get weird vibes, just ghost them, or say, hey, we're full right now, sorry. And then you don't have to invite the creepy people to your house.
Yeah, that's an option too, for sure.
Or if your pricing is, competitive pricing in dog training is kind of expensive. We're not going to sugarcoat that. Most people are not going to pay that just to be creepy around your house.
Yeah, for sure.
They will go be creepy for free at someone random's house.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up a really good point. For us as dog trainers, we don't have to accept every client that comes to our doors.
Yeah.
Just because a client is coming to me saying, I want to pay you for your services, it doesn't mean I have to train their dog. There are, I might turn someone away because their goals are unrealistic. Or, the goals might be unrealistic for the human more than just the dog.
Yeah.
I have clients who have the right dog for the goals, but I can tell that they're not going to be willing to put in the work. I think I had someone message me recently saying, oh yeah, I want this dog to be a service dog. I just want to drop him off for a couple weeks and have the training be done forever. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not how it works at all. But they were like insistent that that's what they wanted. I'm like, then I'm not the right dog trainer for you.
Yeah. And especially for like, younger trainers, like I consider myself not a baby trainer. I'm kind of in that weird, like awkward growing phase. Where like, I know most of what I'm doing, but knowing your abilities as well. Like if someone came up to me and was like, I want a cardiac alert dog, I'm going to be like, I can't help you. I have no experience with any of that. I don't know anything really about service dogs. Could I make a great fake one? Sure. But I'm not, especially when it comes to stuff like that, where it's medical things, I'm not going to accept you into my training program because I can't help you.
Yeah. We'll talk about service dogs in one of these podcasts, so don't you worry.
Oh, good heavens.
But yeah. So knowing for me, knowing where my dog would be so important. I have actually personally never boarded my dog at any type of trainer or commercial boarding facility. I have never done a board and train program. I've never done any of that with my dogs. Mostly because I am so paranoid that something bad's going to happen to my dogs.
Oh, same. I have severe separation anxiety from my dogs.
Yes.
My dogs don't care, but I sure do.
Yep. Oh, my dogs would be fine in a boarding facility. They'd be great. But I can't do it because I just know that something horrible could happen.
Well, my thought on like a lot of the boarding facilities is, they're not dog trainers. They're not like... They're keeping the dog alive to a point. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them promote like the play stuff and they're doing like really cutesy things. But you're like, if you put yourself in the mind of the business, especially if it's like a big chain business, like one of the big pet stores, you're looking for labor that's cheap and doesn't have opinions. And where does that come? Teenagers. And teenagers love dogs. I'm sure there's plenty of great people working there, but especially when you have a dog that you've trained and you don't want the dog to jump or you don't want the dog to rush the door, they're going to let your dog do whatever. Meanwhile, this is all my opinion. If your, friend or whatever is watching the dog, it's a lot easier to be like, hey, don't let them do this. Do this, I give 45-minute talks on how to take care of my dogs when I leave them with people.
Yeah. It's funny, I remember I had my family watch a couple of my dogs, and I remember before I was leaving, I was like, okay, they have to get brushed every single day, and I told them this, not thinking they were actually going to do it, but they actually did.
Really?
And I'm like, they were doing far more than I was doing. Because I just have low expectations of how people take care of dogs.
Yeah.
Granted, my dogs also came back several pounds heavier because, they got spoiled at grandma's house. But if that's the worst thing that happens, fine.
Yeah. But I think it's like a million times worse, too, when you have dogs that have behavior issues. Like Scooter. I recently had a roommate watch him, which he did an awesome job. And I was super grateful for that. But it's like so scary for me to leave Scooter. Because while he's fine with me, everything's good, he does have dog reactivity issues. And while I've got that under control, it might be different with another person. How they handle it's going to be different. Not to mention, that's such a wild card. You don't know if someone just let their dog off leash and it ran up to him. Granted, Scooter has no teeth, But I don't want him to have that bad experience. And on top of that, dogs are going to fight back whether or not the other dog has teeth.
Yeah.
So that's always super scary.
Well, also, young dog owners, new dog owners, there's a learning pattern. This goes for any skill or knowledge base or knowledge set where you learn exponentially in the beginning because you go from knowing nothing to learning some stuff. And you think that you've learned it all very quickly. You think that you're an expert very quickly until you have some sort of rude awakening that tells you that there's so much more to learn. And there's so many people who get stuck in that, I'm a dog owner, I've owned a dog, my dog was great, I must know everything about dog training. And so if you trust your dog with that person, they might think that they know what's best for them.
Yeah.
Even if you tell them, this is what I want for my dog.
Yeah.
And it's so dangerous because, I remember another dog trainer horror story. Thankfully, nothing terrible happened this time. But I used to work for another dog trainer who did things like pack walks. And they even did off-leash pack walks, which I thought was really cool because I had several dogs who were off-leash trained. And when I say off-leash trained, I mean they could heel without a leash. They would recall without a leash. They would behave immaculately without a leash. I always had an e-collar just in case. But That's what I was expecting for everybody on the off-leash pack walk, which was not the case.
Yeah.
It was just, we were out in the woods somewhere, here, let all these untrained, ill-behaved dogs run loose. And I had actually decided for some reason, in my infinite wisdom, to bring my dog-aggressive dog, Bro, on leash, in a muzzle. I mean, he's still good, like, he listens and he's well-behaved, which was helped in this situation. And I stayed like 100 meters behind everyone else, hoping that the dogs would just kind of pretend we weren't there. But like, they just let the dogs run wild. And I'm like, I had Bro on the leash with me. I had him, you know, with his muzzle on. Everything was fine. Until like, you know, someone's golden retriever puppy decides he wants to come over and check out this weird looking dog. So I put Bro in a down, and I play Frogger in the middle, trying to keep this golden retriever puppy out of his face. Nothing bad happened, but one of the other trainers who had been working at this facility for God knows how long was like, I'm sure if he just took off the leash and took off the muzzle, he'd be fine. I'm like, are you insane? Like, this dog will murder that golden retriever puppy. Like,
yeah.
No.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm like, that's your solution? Just take him off the leash. You'll be fine. Like, no, you don't know any. Like, she had never seen my dog before.
Yeah.
She doesn't know anything about my dog's history. She just knows that I have him on a leash and on a muzzle and under obedience the entire time. Unlike every other dog that was there. But they think that they know everything because this is how they want their dogs to be. It's just free and happy and doing whatever. And look, they all get along, so that must be the right answer.
Yeah.
They've never dealt with a dog who has these severe problems.
I see that, like, I see a lot, I think, mostly online, where I'm like, you know, I see people, like, saying what they're gonna say and saying, you know, this is the way dogs should be trained and all this stuff. And, you know, I watch it because I watch every single video on TikTok. Like, I get hyper fixated. And I'm like, I just think to myself, like, have you ever met a dog that has had an issue? Like, it's one thing that the dog pulls on the leash or the dog doesn't sit, whatever. But have you ever met a dog that tried to eat you? Did your dog ever, like, try to eat another dog? Have you met multiple dogs with these issues? Because it's such a spectrum. Like, the behavior mod dog I had a while ago, there's no way, like, sitting there punishing him and feeding him treats altogether is going to fix it immediately.
Yeah.
You know, either or, you know, because there's one side of the spectrum that says, oh, he growls at you, he makes a move, put him on the ground. Or, oh, he growls at you, makes a move, give him a treat. He's a good boy. I'm like, neither one of these are going to work right now.
Right.
Like, I'm going to get killed.
Yeah.
Which I didn't. He was a very good boy. It turned out in the end.
He's wonderful. I
He
can't
is
wait for him to
wonderful.
come back. He's coming back in like 2 weeks.
I do like him.
You get like, it's so crazy, like, because when you are really invested in the improvement of like these behavior mod cases, like, or I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that, but like,
Yeah.
it becomes such an emotional investment on the side of us as the trainer.
I got an update from a behavior mod case I trained that's all the way in Germany now. It was a bad health update, but it was
Yeah.
still an update. I was happy to see a picture.
Yeah, we talk to our clients months and years after they finish with us. We actually just had a client come in today who I haven't seen for like since 2020.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was awesome. Okay, so, you know, some of these, like, these red flags, you know, let's talk about the trainer red flags that we can look for, you know, or that you can look for as a client who is seeking out dog training. I want to start by talking about some of the safety considerations. So let's talk, Kelly, tell me some of the safety considerations that you would expect to see if you were going to go to a dog trainer for dog training.
So let's just, in the picture, to say we're going in for a consultation. If I walk in the house and if I see a loose dog, I'm going back to my car and leaving. I'm going to see, how does the trainer approach my dog? Do they run up to my dog and just get on the floor and start petting them, you know, before knowing the dog? Do they immediately address the dog? Do they sit there, they sit back for a second and kind of see, you know, how's the dog looking? You know, are they going to be upset? Are they going to be fine? Like, you know, how does that look? I'm also going to look at, obviously, the facility, which we talked a lot about. Is there trash laying around? Because your dog's probably going to eat it. I would definitely ask to see where is my dog going to be kept, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in a minute. But the kennels, it doesn't have to be which if they have a $600 Dakota kennel, awesome. Little plug there. That's awesome. Whatever. But even if they have like the PetSmart wire kennel, that's fine, but look at it. Is it rusty? Are there bars hanging off of it? Is it all bent up and nasty? Is there a tray in the bottom? Like, I don't know why people don't put trays in the bottoms for most dogs. Look at that facility. And then another thing is to look, like, how are the dogs being watered? Is it one big communal water bowl, or are they all separate? Because, you got to think about not only physical safety, but disease as well. Very easy to run through a kennel.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm missing some because I just have so many thoughts in my
head. There's so many things. No, you hit a lot of them. Get a general impression. Like, if you look at, like, the way that the dogs are being kept and you say, ew, gross, like, just in general, that might be a red flag.
Yeah.
Right? Granted, we just moved into this place and we're still kind of updating our training space. Like, we are training out of our garage, but it's insulated. It's air conditioned. It's got fans. It's got really nice kennel runs. But, it still needs to be updated. It's got some, like, wood paneling, some old, like, 70s paneling on the walls.
The 70s.
It's a little old school, but, I mean, it's not damaged. It's not decaying. It's not moldy. It's not water
It's
issues.
clean.
It's very clean.
And that's, again, like, you don't have to have the super expensive, super nice, flashy stuff. Being clean is absolutely free.
Yep.
Totally free.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, look at that and say, if you walk into where the training happens, if you walk into where the kennels are, and you're hit in the face with a blast of hot air, like, that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Right?
And, if you can't, like, it's kind of weird to be like, hey, can I see the equipment you use for dogs? But if your trainer has, like, their leashes and stuff out, like, gander, take a little peek over there. If they're dirty, that's one thing. Like, leashes get kind of grody. But are they frayed? Do they look like they've been hit by a truck and chewed and nasty and
Are they tied in 1,000 knots? I'm not going to lie, knots in leashes drive me nuts.
Oh, yeah.
So...
My biothane got one knot in it one time, and I could not get it out.
I got it out.
You got it out, yeah.
Because I couldn't handle it.
I was like, I don't even know how this happened.
I couldn't handle your leash being in a knot while you were using it. I had to fix it.
It was like an intense knot. I'm not even sure what happened.
That's all right.
I could not get it out. But, try and be a little bit sneaky as best you can.
Yeah. I wouldn't even be sneaky. I'd be blatant about it.
Yeah.
You're investing a lot of money in these people. And the thing is, like, if you're investing a lot of money, you expect a high quality of care for your dogs and a high quality or high level of trust. But if you're looking for the least expensive trainer, like, beware.
Yeah.
Right? Because the reason why we are, on the higher end, not even higher end, we're very competitive. We're pretty much on par with all the quality trainers around here. But the reason we are is because our time is not just spent training your dogs. You're also paying for the time that we put into keeping the space clean. The care and maintenance that we have for our training fields, our grass, our fences. Like, I spent all weekend and several days last week watering, seeding, repairing a couple of the loose boards on the fence, making sure, like, I put down some sod in some areas where the fence, there's a small gap. To make sure that small dogs can't get out. And, like, I am constantly trying to improve this facility so that way when you as the client comes here, you have the best experience you possibly can.
Yeah. And think of it too as like a restaurant. Like, if they have, and I'm thinking about, like, dog food right now, because, like, if you go to a restaurant and you see, like, flies sitting on all the food plates and there's just food everywhere and it's kind of nasty, you're like, I don't want to eat there.
Yeah.
Where are they storing their dog food? Is it just open bags in the middle of wherever, nothing's labeled, it's just kind of a best guess as to whose food is whose? Or is it, neatly put off to the side? Maybe it's in bins, maybe it's taped shut, and there's clear names on it, and things are very clear and organized and kept well, because dog food can get bugs and stuff crazy easy, or even mold, and that can kill your dog in certain cases with mold.
And when we talk about, like, learning from mistakes, our own or other people's, I had, we have people come in and they just bring a whole big 30-pound bag of food, 40-pound bag of food, and they drop it off with their dog. And it's kind of hard to store that stuff when you have several dogs who have those bags in there. When I had my facility back in 2020, I didn't know what to do with them, so I just kind of had them sitting on the floor until one day I come in, there's a line of ants going to one of the bags, and the bag was just full of ants.
Yeah.
We threw out the whole bag, and I replaced the bag of food with a new bag out of my own pocket because that was my mistake.
Yeah.
Now, since then, I don't put bags of food on the floor because I know better now. Even if it's just elevated like up on a pallet or something like that, it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Not to mention airflow under those bags, especially like, you're training in a more outdoorsy building. Like we train in the garage, moisture gets in there and everything. You don't want it underneath that bag.
Yep. Yeah. So, some of those red flags to just look for, is, one, does the trainer welcome me into the home or into the space that they're training or the dogs will be kept? Am I allowed to see and, one, know where my dog will be? If I need to pick up my dog in an emergency situation, can I do that?
Yeah.
Right? Not to keep referencing the first story we talked about because that's like in the news now, but apparently what had happened was the trainer was gone the entire day. Like they left to go pick up a dog for a training program. And like they were gone like all day. I think they were driving like 3 or 4 hours away to go get this dog, and 3 or 4 hours back. But the thing is, like, this is one of the other reasons why I like doing our consultations at my home, at our training facility, is because think about it. Like, if you want me to come to your house because, you want that convenience, you want that, you want to see me go in that effort for you, I want you to think about the dogs that I have in for training right now, who are in here waiting for me to train them, who are sitting in their kennels. If I have to drive, let's say you're 30, 45 minutes away to go to your place, to do your consultation, which usually takes me over an hour, and then to drive that 30, 45 minutes back, that's all that time those dogs are just sitting in their runs, in their kennels, right? That they could be training. Now imagine your dog is in for training, and now someone else wants me to come to their house to do their consultation, and now your dog is the one that's just sitting in that kennel.
I mean, if you're already not willing to put the effort in to drive your dog to training, are you going to keep up with the training?
That's the other thing too, right? So, I mean, we get a little bit into like our business concepts as well, but we'll talk about like investment of time because we don't want to take on clients who are not going to invest their own time as well as their money into their dog's betterment.
Yeah.
So, if we get that sense that you're not going to, be involved, we might not take you on as a client.
Yeah. And with that being said, like, I totally understand being a little further out wanting to do like a phone consultation, like especially when it's like a puppy or something. That makes sense. But I do have another red flag I want to talk about is like when you're sitting down talking to that trainer or whoever, and especially in like a multi-employee business, one, are you meeting the actual trainer that's going to be working with your dog? And weirdly enough, this is a big issue with horses back in my hometown. I know this sounds super weird, but there's a pretty well-known guy that trains horses, but the problem is he's always got these young girls around riding and stuff, which it sounds creepy. It's not creepy. But like, I know some of the girls that have been up there riding, and I'm like, you are not good with animals at all. Like, you kind of borderline abusive with them. And there's no guarantee that he's touching the horse. Mm-hmm. So same with dogs. You could have like a superstar dog trainer giving you the consultation. Are they going to be touching your dog? Do you know who's touching your dog?
Yep.
And then, is your trainer just talking at you, or are they asking you questions and taking time to listen about your dog's problems and asking further questions too? Because I know we always go crazy with the medical questions and any kind of altercations between humans and dogs and all that stuff.
Yeah, and if you ever come in for our consultation, and I've had a lot of people be like, wow, you ask a lot of questions about my dog, a lot of like deep in the weeds stuff. It's because of every time I've had a situation where I wish I knew this information before I brought the dog in for training.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, the dog came in for training and we ran out of the food. We need to go get more. Oh, the client's not answering their phone. I don't know what type of food they eat. Yeah. Because I didn't ask them during the consultation. I didn't ask, do they have any allergies or whatever. Oh, I didn't ask if they had, a history of ear infections.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so, it's all a product of experience at this point.
Yeah.
So, when you're talking with a dog trainer and, the moment you walk through their doors, they're ready to take your dog off your hands. Like, I'd be pretty wary because if they don't care to know about what's going on with your dog, their health, their well-being, their routine, their lifestyle, before they're willing to take that dog, like, it tells me that they're not experienced enough to know that information is so important.
Yeah, like if you don't tell, like, and especially because we know our dogs so well as dog owners that sometimes your brain doesn't even think about like the touchy parts of your dog kind of thing. If you don't tell me your dog got hit by a car at age 5 and is now sore on the left hip if he walks on concrete too much, I'm going to walk him on concrete. Like, right. I'm not going to think about anything.
So, it's a super funny story that I want to tell you about. So, when I was in dog training school, they assigned us dogs. And they assigned me this dog. He was really cool. He was a German Shepherd Chow mix named Cowboy. He was
Gracie?
Awesome. Yeah, Gracie.
Is it Gracie?
But he was super cool, super sweet, super nice dog. Very Chow personality, very stubborn. But he was cool. He was fine. And if you've done training with us, you know that the way we train our sit is we use a little bit of leash pressure, a little bit of luring, and we place our left hand on the dog's hips. So anytime we were in school and they asked for a volunteer, my hand would always shoot up. I always wanted to volunteer for everything because I'm a teacher's pet, so sue me. I got every penny I could out of that school. So I volunteered with my dog, Cowboy, and the instructor was asking, hey, let me demonstrate with your dog first. Now, normally, most trainers won't, take the leash from the client unless they really have to. In this situation, he was going to take the leash. He asked me before he did, he's like, hey, is your dog sensitive to touch anywhere? Is there anywhere that he doesn't like being touched? I'm like, yeah, he's sensitive on the hips. He kind of jumps or startles a little bit when you touch like his hips or his flank. He's like, okay. I think it kind of kind of just floated past him, the comment that I had made about him being sensitive, because he went to go do the exercise. And as soon as he put his hand on his hips, he jumped away.
Yeah.
And he's like, and that is why, folks, we don't normally take the leash from the client in private lessons type of situation. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. I told him hey, this dog is sensitive to touch in this exact spot, not knowing that that's exactly where he was going to touch him, which it was. And he's like, oh yeah, he is sensitive. Look at that. But yeah, so when you're doing your consultation, the trainer should be looking for a lot of information about, normal everyday stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think impacts the dog's training. Their feeding routine, water routine, where do they sleep at night, where do they go while you're at work, what do they like in their kennels, what do they like during the day, what times of the day are you experiencing stuff that's annoying that your dog is doing. All that sort of stuff is so important. Yeah. So if they're not asking those types of questions, you might be a little bit cautious.
And I mean, if you have, I want you to start thinking in the back of your mind, be Kelly. When she has a gut feeling, you don't have to say anything outwardly, but you can quietly excuse yourself after the consultation. If you have the gut feeling that either I don't like this person, our personalities don't get together, I don't feel comfortable asking questions, or I just feel like something is off here, worst case scenario is you come back and be like, hey, I'm ready for training now.
Yeah.
But, feel free to go to multiple consultations and see, am I having the same experience, or is it just, that person?
Or you could be Ashley, and if you have a gut feeling, you could just say something outright.
That too. I'm very introvert. I don't want confrontation. I'm not trying to cause a fight. I just want to leave.
So at our dog training club that we go to, we have people come visit, who are interested in joining on a regular basis. And every once in a while, we get a dog that comes in who's kind of overweight. And everyone looks at me and waits for me to tell the person their dog is fat.
Yeah.
Because I will be the first one to tell you your dog is fat. All right, so, another thing that we were just talking about is, can the trainer show you any examples of a finished product? So Kelly, what do you mean by a finished product?
Well, one thing that came to my mind was I saw there was something recently about someone, I don't know too much about this story, but someone winning a service dog from some contest because they couldn't afford it, and turns out the dog was never trained. The person just never trained the dog.
What?
Yeah. No, it was
I didn't
crazy.
hear about this.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just kind of showing you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and they're like, this dog is not trained. It doesn't do anything. And the girl that had it actually has some legitimate needs for a service dog, and is not supplying it.
Well, then again, winning a service dog, That's
It's not like winning. It was more of like donated. Like she applied to be donated the dog. I shouldn't have said winning.
Got it.
Poor word choice on my part. But like, can the trainer pull up their Instagram and be like, here are some dogs I've trained, or better yet, like we do, because we provide like 1,000,001 resources to our clients. Because not only do this, it sounds like a plug, but it's not trying to be a plug.
It's a plug. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a plug. But, not only do we do the go home lessons and like we'll do occasional updates and stuff for the clients, we do videos that they can reference forever and ever with their dogs on YouTube.
Yeah.
And with that, if we're in a consultation, I can pull up a video on our YouTube of us training a dog, which of course we keep most of our training people's dogs. We keep those typically private and just share the link to the owners.
So like if you as a client go to our YouTube channel and look, you're not going to see a whole lot of videos. But what you don't see is hundreds and hundreds of videos that are unlisted because they're only available to each dog's individual clients.
Yeah.
So like if you come in and do training with us, when your dog, does whatever they're training, I love to videotape, and we were just talking about this earlier, because I'm not a huge fan of doing a whole lot of editing. So I will just straight up video a raw, training session from start to finish. And I usually wear like a wearable mic, and I kind of talk through what I'm doing, talk to the client during that video, like, hey, these are the updates, this is what your dog is up to. Meanwhile, they're watching the video of me training their dog in the training space, in my home, in my garage, in my yard. And I'll talk about like, hey, this is your dog, this is what they're doing, this is how they're feeling, this is what I'm noticing, and give them all that update. But like I said, that's not going to be visible to everybody. Yeah. But like for our clients, I show them that to be like, hey, this is what you will receive for your dog.
Yeah. And of course, like a big reason we keep most of those videos private is because if you do have a dog that has some sort of behavior issue, you don't want that to be like a big public advertisement thing. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to sound like we're hiding anything, but it's just client privacy stuff.
And the thing is too, like, I love sharing the raw video of that client's dog during training because, dogs make mistakes. Yeah. I'm not going to advertise that dog making mistakes in the training. Yeah. Because, people don't want to show off their dog screwing up. I mean, it's important for them to be aware that mistakes are going to happen and how to handle those mistakes. But we want to show the world how great their dog is doing. Yeah. And that's what we want the world to see, is that their dog is wonderful, happy, enjoying, and we're enjoying their dog as well, which we are. Yeah. But, we don't have to show off that they're going to make a lot of mistakes because, the public doesn't need that.
And I see online, like, I keep saying I see online, but so much happens online.
Yeah.
Are you online? You have to be online.
The social media dog trainers are the big reason why, like, we have so many issues these days. So. Yeah.
But I see comments all the time of like, and it's not on my stuff. I'm very snoopy. I snoop a lot. But it's very, like, oh my gosh, that dog's stressed. Or I even saw one that's like drinking game, drink every time you see a dog, do a stress signal. But I'm like, most dogs that we get are here because they have an actual issue. It's not, we get a couple like puppy basics or like, we want to do something fun, whatever. But most dogs have, fear issues or aggression issues, and they're not going to be happy when they first come in. They're going to be stressed. It's a new place. Oh, yeah. And they don't know where they're at. They're going to look scared. Yep. And obviously we're not going to post it online with no context because you could edit me with a baseball bat in the background and be like, this is why the dog's stressed. And,
Absolutely. I mean, so many dogs come into training because, they're fearful or they're aggressive or they hate other dogs or they don't like new people or they struggle with adapting to changes in their environment. And, these are the things that they're going to work through. So, yeah. Stress happens in training for sure. And, just like stress happens for humans, we create deliberate stress that we teach the dog how to manage so that when there is unexpected stress, that they know how to handle it.
Yeah. And I mean, you deal with stress in your daily life. Your dog probably does too. Yeah. And honestly, I feel like a lot of those comments, I would like to just link a little course on dog body language. Because I'm like, the dog's looking up. Like, their eyes are going to have whites in them. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. I know exactly what post you're referring to.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was like, what the heck? Sorry, his eyes moved.
Cool. Okay, so let's start talking about how we, like, if we were a dog training client and we're looking for a dog trainer, what are some things that we can ask our dog trainers, if we haven't talked about it already, to make sure that they're the right dog trainer for us?
How did you get into dog training, and like where did you gain your experience from? Not like, I understand not being able to go to every school in the world. I'm currently not able to go to every single school in the world. But, maybe here, have they been to a couple seminars? Have they trained under a reputable trainer and researched that trainer? I got most of my experience from Ashley with Airborne Canine. And if I, move across the country and let's say she made me real mad and I quit, or something crazy happens, and I say, hey, I train with Ashley from Airborne Canine, most reputable dog people are going to know you, and they can easily look up your business and be like, oh, okay, like, you were trained by a competent person.
You think that reputable people know me?
I feel like you're pretty well known, because you kind of, you go everywhere. You're out at all the seminars, dock diving stuff.
Maybe I am.
You do kind of network a lot. But,
It's so weird to think that sometimes.
But like, even then, even if I said, hey, I went to this dog training school, look up the dog training school. Is it a little like online rinky dink, here's your PDF certificate training school?
I'm going to give you a hint, guys. If the dog trainer puts like their dog training title at the end of their name, like, I can't remember what's the IACP one, like CPTT.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. Like, if it's, dog trainer Jane Doe CBTT, whatever, it probably is BS.
Like, girl, you are not AKC registered. You do not need alphabet soup.
No.
Leave that for the dogs.
All of the best dog training schools that I know, like, that are in person, that you go to the school, you train hands-on with dogs, with people in the same room as them.
Yeah.
You don't graduate with any fancy titles after your name. You get, like, a certificate, but you get the experience that you've gone to, that school. You went there, you worked hands-on, you worked with a person, you did it, in person, and, that is invaluable with how much you will actually learn instead of just doing an online course.
Well, and there's also, a difference between a standardized school and a non-standardized.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can be an awesome trainer after that non-standardized school if you put the work in, but you could also just kind of drift around and they'll be like, thanks for your money, here's your certificate too.
Yep.
So, look into these schools and things and see, what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, because like I said, like, there was that trainer that I hired who had gone to a very reputable school, but they had no idea what they were doing. And I'm not going to lie, like, I found out that a friend of mine who's a dog trainer ended up hiring the same person later on, only to have them get fired, like, a week later.
Oh, yeah, I know the story.
Yeah.
I remember this one.
And, like, the crazy thing is, like, the dog training world is so small.
Yeah.
And so, like, me as a dog trainer, like, I have a lot of friends who own dog training businesses as well, who are hiring and losing dog trainers all the time, and like, they're always interviewing new people, and after they interview with them, or if they receive like an application to become a dog trainer, you know what they do? They call me. They say, hey, do you know this person? I'm like, yeah, I know them. Why? Like, oh, we're considering hiring them. And I'll be like, oh, absolutely, or absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an extremely small world.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so many people want to be dog trainer. They call themselves dog trainer. I see 16-year-olds on TikTok calling themselves dog trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're still in high school, you're not a dog trainer. You are a dog hobbyist.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, you asked me one day, when did you know that you were an experienced dog trainer? And I was like, I'm not.
Yeah. And that's a good sign. Like, you're not like, oh, well, when everyone else is below you, like, you know what I mean? Nothing like that. It's, you need to still learn, because you're never going to know every single dog on the planet.
And, like, one of the really bad traits I have, and I really wish I would stop doing this, but it's so, like, subconscious, is that I go to, like, working dog events, sport dog events. I go to seminars, and I look at the people who I've maybe never met before. I see them to my left, to my right, and I just assume because they're there that they know more than I do.
Yeah.
Which, to surround yourself with people who do know more than you is awesome. But to assume that people know more than you is apparently a very dangerous thing to do, because I have made a lot of mistakes at the detriment of my own training and my dog's training,
Yeah.
that it resulted of that. So, but yeah. What are some other questions that you would want to ask if you were, doing a consultation with a potential trainer and you want to know if this is going to be the right fit for you as a client?
Have you dealt with dogs that have similar cases going on to you? Obviously, no dog's going to be the same, but like, human aggression or dog aggression. Have you dealt with breeds similar to this? Especially like my thought is like Shiba Inus, Akitas, Huskies, stuff like that. Like, do they know the breed very well? Which, don't expect everyone to know every single breed. Obviously, there's a lot of common ones people should be familiar with, but, they'll kind of look it up. Like, we have a Rhodesian Ridgeback right now. It's the first time I've worked with a Rhodesian Ridgeback. So definitely, like, learning more about the breed right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And, it's hard to, like, know what to expect out of any training dog. Like, I've had dogs who come in who I'm like, did the consultation, seems pretty straightforward, seems like something I've dealt with a lot before. And then once they come in, we find out, they are severely, like, super separation anxiety, stressed out just because their mom and dad's not here.
Yeah.
And maybe the client wasn't aware that was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Or, some other issue where maybe they were being overfed and they're just really not hungry for the first couple days.
Or, asking how often should I expect updates? What is a typical training day look like? And, keep in mind, most trainers are training out of their homes and things, do change. We get doctor's appointments and stuff like that. But typically, like, the training day should have an average.
Oh, yeah. And I would ask, how many times a day is my dog actually going to be working?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of trainers who are like, yep, 2 times is enough.
It's not.
I mean, if it works for that trainer, it works for that trainer. That's great, but I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known some trainers who are very successful, who produce really good, good dogs as far as I'm aware of, but they say that they only train like twice a day, and that's amazing, because I have to do at least like 5 or 6 sessions depending on where the dog is at in their training, because as we get closer to the end of their training programs, depending on how long their training program is, those training sessions get longer.
Yeah.
And if the dog's doing longer sessions, I can't do as many of them. But still, we're probably looking at upwards of anywhere from 60 to 90 to 120 minutes of training total.
Yeah.
Spread out over, anywhere from 5 to 8 sessions throughout the day.
Yeah.
And that's just the way we do it. So...
And honestly, like, I don't even count sessions that much anymore, because even, like, potty breaks, like, I just pottied the dogs, it's still semi-structured for most of the dogs.
Yeah, because even if they're just coming out to potty, we're still having them wait at the kennel door, wait at the door to go outside, get released out of the heel position or out of, a sit to go potty, and then heel back inside, sit at the door, sit at the kennel, sit before they get to drink some water. So even in that amount of time, even if it's just a few minutes to take a potty session, you're still reinforcing all those behaviors. Yeah. So,
and I think a good thing to ask too, because some people might not just bring it up. How many employees do you have? Do you have interns? Do you have apprentices? What is available to my dog during the day? Are you giving all of the dogs free access to water? Is it just the dogs that aren't potty training? What's going on there? Mm-hmm. Just get all the information you can get, and you'll feel a lot better about what you're buying.
Yeah. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, we have a lot of rules where, we've had clients who are like, oh, can I bring their bed? Can I bring their blankie? Can I have some toys for them in their kennel? And we say no. One, it's not going to help the training to have that stuff there. It might make your dog feel a bit more comfortable, but for us, the biggest issue is safety of the dog. Because, if you want to have them have their blankie in their kennel, and they decide during the night that they want to tear it up and ingest it, well, now, we have a dog with a very serious medical condition because, you want your dog to have their blankie.
Yeah.
But if they have their toys in their kennel, that can actually be detrimental to training, because if they're having so much fun playing with their toys in their kennel, then they're not going to be as excited to come out and work with us.
Yeah.
So, just because I say, yeah, your dog's going to be in just an empty kennel run with an elevated bed, it's not a prison cell. We're taking them out. We're giving them plenty of opportunities to engage with us, but it has a very specific purpose. And so even if there's something that, you say, hey, I'm not comfortable with my dog living in a kennel like that, you can ask, well, why is that the condition that you have the dog staying in?
Yeah.
Right? Why is my dog just in an empty kennel run with no toys or blankets or pillows or whatever?
Yeah.
And for us, we have a very specific reason for it. But if they're just like, oh, that's just what we have, they aren't able to articulate the benefit of having the dogs living in that way, then maybe look a little bit deeper into, hey, does this person really know what they're doing?
Yeah, never ever be afraid to ask, why are you doing that? I mean, of course there's very mean ways to ask that, but if you're why are you choosing a prong collar for my dog? The trainer should be able to, which by the way, go back and watch our equipment episode. But the trainer should be able to tell you the reason they're selecting that equipment, the reason they might be deviating from the training plan they maybe sent you. So always ask why.
Yeah. Because, when we have the dogs in, everything has a purpose.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing with the dog, every interaction we have with the dogs, the reason why they're in a kennel run, or maybe we chose to have this dog in a crate, that's going to have a specific reason for it as well. So everything does have a purpose. We put a lot of thought into everything we do with the dogs. And if it doesn't feel like there's a lot of thought going into your dog's care, that's probably a red sign or a red flag as well.
Yeah. It goes to as simple as, why did I start? I have a puppy I started today on place instead of heel. Mm-hmm. When we typically start training with heel. Confidence. The dog needs a lot of confidence, so we pick something easy to start out with.
Yeah.
So there's always a reason.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. I'm trying to think of what else I would ask if I was going to bring my dog to a trainer.
I'd want to know when potty breaks happen, for sure, where the potty breaks are happening. Is the potty area clean, or is it a solid floor of dog poo-poo?
Yeah.
Because dog poo-poo is nasty.
How about this? What happens if my dog has an accident?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
What's your, especially with potty training, what's your potty training methods? Because you can make your dog neurotic and eat their poop and drink their pee and freak the hell out.
So, if my dog has a potty accident, what is going to happen to my dog? How do we teach our dog that you don't want to be having a potty accident in your crate, in your kennel, in the house? How do we get that message across? Do you beat them with a paper or a newspaper? Or do you, shove their head in a hole and drown them in their pee? No, that's not what I would want you doing to my dog. Granted, there are, old school trainers who might say that that's the right thing to do. Do you shove their nose in their poop? You're I don't think that is helpful. And if, that's what you're going to do to the dog if they have an accident, I'm probably not going to have my dog stay with you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of these questions do have to come from a mildly educated, stance with it. So, do a little bit of research and watch, don't just watch one guy on YouTube that says, he can fix any dog he touches. Watch a couple people, see, is there stuff you have strong opinions about? And then double check those opinions. Are they formed out of fact, or are they formed out of, internet stuff?
I love being as transparent as we can be. So, if you ever check out our website, www.airbornecanine.com. Plug. We have an entire resource section. The cool part about that resource section is that there are all these how-to guides, step-by-step guides on how to do just about everything. Potty training, crate training, including an obedience guide. The obedience guide completely outlines exactly how we are going to teach your dog how to do heel, sit, down, place, coming when called. Everything we do is essentially step-by-step written out in those guides. And so that is going to inform you how you can expect your dog to be trained. So when you're asking hey, what do I do if my dog has an accident? If you look at our potty training guide, it's in there.
Yeah.
So if you find that the dog trainer is shrouded in this secrecy, I can't share with you my secret dog training methods because you're going to steal them and use them and become a dog trainer and steal my clients, that's probably not a super confident dog trainer.
No, and everything's been done before for the most part. I would also ask, what are your expectations of me? Am I allowed to let the dog go home and just do whatever on the weekend? Am I expected to keep up with training? Like, we kind of expect our clients to at least do a little bit of training. At least don't give the dog the food in the bowl. Give them like an enrichment toy or something to make them still earn it, but ideally working for it. No clear expectations on your part. And clear pickup times too. I had a client they were nervous coming to training, and of course we had a good relationship and everything. But they were very nervous to come into training because they had sent a dog previously to a trainer, and the trainer just kept going, "Oh, it's almost done. It's almost done. Oh, don't worry, it's almost done." And then all of a sudden they didn't have a car and they couldn't drop the dog off, and like the dog was just there forever. I'm like, get a clear time frame.
Oh yeah,
because when you pay for a 3-week board and train, let's say through us, we tell you it's 15 days of training, so they go home on the weekends. And, we'll make up days that we have to miss or you have to miss or your dog has to miss for a vet appointment or something. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to just hold your dog over.
Yeah. And I'm like, we're telling you like the way we do things, not because we think that's the one right way or it's the best way to do it. It's that if, I know a lot of our listeners are other dog trainers, and we're just hopefully giving some, hey, this is what's worked for us.
Yeah.
We think that this gives our clients a very solid sense of comfort and security, trusting their dogs with us. Like for our dogs, they come in on Mondays, they go home on Fridays. When they come in to drop off their dog on Monday, they have a drop-off time that they have scheduled. And so they drop off at their scheduled drop-off time. When they drop off, they also schedule their go-home time. So they know exactly what time on Friday they're getting their dog. And we tell them they're going to be doing a lesson to expect to be here for an hour.
Yeah.
We tell them when to expect their updates, what kind of updates they're going to be getting, everything. We try to be as transparent as possible. We're not hiding anything. I think that our clients really appreciate it, and it's paid us back in, sevenfold. So
yeah. I would also ask as well, which is something I feel like you shouldn't have to ask, but you do. Is my dog going to come into contact with other dogs that are loose?
Oh, yeah.
There's a difference between you're training with a dog on the place bed in the background and you're using dog neutrality versus everyone's running around the living room and fighting.
Oh my God, another dog trainer horror story.
Oh, good heavens.
Yes. So there was another dog trainer I briefly worked with, and we had a dog that I was working with the client during private lessons. So they're doing private lessons. And this dog had very severe separation anxiety and crate anxiety. And the client was doing a great job, being very patient, taking it very slow, but they were at a certain point where they were kind of at their wits' end. And they wanted to go on vacation, but they didn't know if leaving their dog at a boarding facility would be detrimental. And the owner of the business offered to do a week board and train for free. And I said, that's great, but I was booked up for dogs. I couldn't take them in my home. So the owner offered to take the dog to do the board and train herself. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so the client had come to drop off the dog before I got into the training facility that day. And she's like, oh yeah, I just threw the dog in the back there in the kennels. I'm like, okay, cool. And I go in the back, and the dog is inside a crate with one of the owner's personal dogs.
Oh no.
I was like, what? She's like, yeah, my dog will just teach the dog how to, be in the crate, how to be cool in the crate. I'm like, that's not a thing.
You were working for that person at the time?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, and it was oh yeah, I was very upset. And then the worst part about it is because the owner didn't really use leashes on her dogs ever, and she didn't have the dogs ride in crates in their car. And so when she took the dog home, she just threw it in the back of the car with all of her other dogs.
It'll make it or it won't.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Whatever. And then the next thing I hear is I get a phone call saying, you need to call the dog's owners because the dog got loose. And I'm like, how does the dog get loose? It was just a little beagle. It was not a big, powerful dog.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that she just kind of opened the back of the car, letting all the dogs go run into her house, assuming that this fearful, terrified little dog was just going to run into her house willingly.
Yeah.
And just took off. That was... And then I'm like, why are you calling me? You need to call the client. You lost the dog. which the dog would not come to any of us because the dog was just terrified of everyone. So we had to call the client, who thankfully was still like nearby. They just gone out to eat and came and like helped us wrangle the dog. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
So that's another good question to ask. Is my dog going to be going off the property? Which we do take our boarding dogs or board and train dogs occasionally, depending on what they're at skill wise and what their program needs. We'll take them to like public places and work on stuff. But ask, is my dog going to go off the property? How is my dog going to travel? Are they going to travel loosely in the back of a pickup truck bed? Or are they going to travel in a crash-proof, safe Dakota 283 kennel? Plug. But how are they going to get there? Because accidents happen. Whether or not I almost got hit today by someone trying to merge into the same lane as me. Yeah. Like stupid.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I just drove up to Massachusetts with 7 crash-proof kennels in my Suburban, and because God forbid anything happened and one of my Chihuahuas went flying through the windshield, I'd be very sad.
If I can fit an extra large Ruffland in my Honda Accord, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I don't have that car anymore.
Aww.
But
it is in my driveway.
It is technically in your driveway, but the title is not in my hands. I sold it.
Fair enough.
It's just broken down, but that's a different thing. Listen to our last podcast to hear me talk about my car being broken down. I think it's the last one or before that. Now I have a nice, fancy, shiny SUV.
Yeah, it's
nice.
beautiful.
Thank you. But
So asking how's my dog going to travel, right?
Yeah.
Or will my dog be traveling with
Yeah.
you? What happens in the event of an emergency? Like the dog gets sick.
Yeah.
Things happen, and I need to, all of a sudden the dog needs to go to the emergency vet. How's my dog going to get there?
Or ask, what emergency vet do you use? Because they should know. They shouldn't have to Google emergency vets in my area as your dog is seizing on the floor. Like that's not something that should be happening.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, there are so many good questions you can ask, and anything that you are curious about, don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah.
Is my dog going to be monitored 24/7? Is my dog going to be under video surveillance 24/7? What safety prevention do you have to prevent, heat injuries?
Are there kids in the home? Are the kids contained?
Yeah.
Are the children kept in kennels?
Yeah. Thankfully, there are no children on my property, which is great.
Because, kids, stuff happens. Mm-hmm. Kids throw toys. Button batteries fall out of toys. Kids put their fingers places, and they open doors, and stuff happens.
I had a client come, and we were doing something, and I had the client take the dog outside to go potty while I was setting up a training inside our home. And I have my personal dog's kennels in a little separate room that's just blocked off by a door. And I had gone in there and I had the door open. I didn't realize that the child had followed me in there while I was getting something, and he had walked over to my human aggressive German Shepherd's kennel and was reaching for the door. I don't know if he was trying to open it or just trying to stick his fingers in there, but I was immediately holy shit, don't do that.
Yeah. And it's not to say if your dog trainer has kids, don't use them, because that's not the right thing. But are the kids gremlins or are they well behaved?
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Because it's training children is similar to training dogs in my understanding of it.
No, there's a dog trainer I know who has 3 children now. She's a dog. She owns her business. She's got a wonderful business. She's out towards Myrtle Beach area. She's wonderful. And she does have 3 kids. I know she's got a beautiful family. She's got a really nice training facility though, so she doesn't do her consultations in her house.
Yeah.
So it's not just just having kids doesn't make you a bad dog trainer.
No. Yeah.
By no means. But if I'm sitting at my kitchen table trying to do a consultation with you, and little crotch goblins are coming running up and trying to be, mommy, I want a drink, or so and so put the goldfish in the toilet or whatever. Well, we're trying to have a professional conversation. That's probably a red flag that we don't really have our shit together.
Mommy, you left your cigarettes out.
Yeah. And that kind of goes in the same realm as that first thing you said. If there's a loose dog, that's a big red flag. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just not going to happen. So, all right. So, you can ask all the safety questions in the world. You can get all the answers in the world. But, when it all comes down to it, be picky about who you choose to take care of your dogs.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have that warm and fuzzy, or if you have any concerns, like, I would just err on the side of caution and find someone else.
And don't trust Google reviews, because we both have known people that buy Google reviews. It's not us.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's us. It's not us. We don't
So,
buy them.
I had a client come to us, so, great client, loves her to death. She did training with us with one of her dogs. She left, and there was another trainer in the area who was offering some type of coupon. Like, hey, sign up this month and get 20% off a training program. And so when she got a second dog at that time, she went to them. Well, this happens a lot where after she went to them, she ended up coming back to us because, she had a really bad experience. She had written a review stating how bad her experience was, only for the owner to kind of refund all of their money for their training program and pay her an additional $1,000 to take down the bad review and write a good review instead.
I'm not gonna lie, like, I would probably do that for
She did.
$1,000.
Yeah, she did. I don't blame her. $1,000 is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. That's one Dakota 285 kennel and some. Plug.
283.
283 kennel and some.
You
Plug.
said the same thing.
Oh my
in
God.
Past podcast, you said 285.
Numbers are hard. It's at least one Dakota kennel.
Yeah, it's like a 283, but better. No.
Yeah, it's like a little bit more. It gets more numbers because it's with us.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, but the thing is, like, we're making it known that, like, you can buy reviews. You can create new, like, unlimited Google email accounts and sit there and write review after review after review for yourself if you really want to.
Or ask your friends and family, hey, I just started this. Can you leave me reviews?
Right.
Saying we fixed your dog's mental illness.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, it's hard, too, because on the flip side of that, we've had people leave us bad reviews who have never even used our services.
There was one bad review we had that there was no comment, nothing, just someone just clicked 0 stars. Or one star, whatever it was.
No idea who they were, never heard the name before, checked all of our records. We had no record of them ever contacting us, messaging us, nothing. And they just left a 1-star review for no reason.
Yeah.
So,
go off, queen.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot that you can glean from Google reviews. I would definitely, pay attention to the ones that maybe have photos who are very descriptive, things like that. But I would say, all in all, when you're talking with the trainer and you're asking your questions, are they giving you that warm and fuzzy?
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel at home with that person? If they give you the heebie-jeebies, if they make you a little nervous, if you're just not getting the answers that you're really comfortable with, like, I probably wouldn't go with them.
Or if you feel like they don't know what they're talking about.
That's hard, though, because when you're if you're a new dog owner, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like you can kind of read between word vomit, though. If you feel like it's word vomit.
Because, like I was talking about with my experience with going to, like, seminars and stuff and assuming that everybody knows more than I do, like, it's so hard because there are people out there who are at a certain point in their learning journey where they think they know everything.
That's true.
And they talk like they know everything.
Yeah.
Until you actually see them in action and you realize that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But, like, when I'm saying, like, make sure you have that, like, that warm, fuzzy feeling that you're getting a good sense for what you're going to be getting out of your training. Like, if I have a client comes in and they say to me, you don't use prong collars, do you? Well, I'm going to say, sometimes we do. Sometimes it is the right, tool for the dog. If they're already wildly averse to it, I can say, we can, if you want us to, we can guarantee we won't put a prong collar on your dog. We can talk about, why it might be recommended. But if you say that one stipulation, I don't want to use a prong collar on my dog, then we can do that. I think in a lot of situations when we're starting to have that conversation, I probably will say that, hey, we might not be the right trainer for your dog.
Yeah.
Right? Because even if it is something I would recommend and it's still something you don't want to do, then, we're going to be having that difference of opinions. And, even me being an experienced trainer might say, hey, this dog isn't performing the way I want him to. Maybe it's just because the client won't let me use this tool. And now I can start making excuses for why the dog is misbehaving.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be put in that situation. I don't want to have that sensation or that mental state when I'm working with the dog because, I'm now giving some sort of extrinsic excuse to why the dog isn't performing the way I want him to.
Yeah.
When really it could just be about, I need to figure out a training method that works better.
And I've had clients that are like the opposite end of the spectrum, where they're like, I want you to use prong collars, and they're like super, like, I guess they have the misconception that like trained dogs have all this shit on them.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't cuss. Redacted.
The podcast is marked explicit because we cannot hold the cussing in. Once you work with dogs, you just start cussing. It has to happen because, we can tell the dog that they are getting on our last effing nerve, but we can say it in a very nice way so the dog doesn't know that they are getting on our last effing nerve.
Yeah. But I when I get the clients in that are very like, it's a prong collar or bust, I do spend a little bit of time trying to kind of, in the consultation, working with them, like explaining why we use tools, when we use them, why we do stuff. And if I feel like you're going to go home and put that PetSmart prong collar on it anyway and hammer the crap out of it, the dog's going to be all touchy, I'm probably not going to want to work with you as a client, because when your dog is scared of everything, I don't want to be blamed and someone say, hey, you hit this dog.
Yeah.
When it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of goes multiple directions.
Yeah. And you know me, I'm super blunt. I'll tell people during the consultation, like, hey, this thing that you're doing with your dog is probably the reason why your dog is acting this way.
Yeah.
And if they don't seem receptive to that and they're not willing to accept that the way that they've treated their dog is the reason why their dog is behaving the way they are, which is essentially the case with most dog learning, right? Aside from what is temperament and genetics, our dog's behavior is the result of our actions.
Yeah.
If the client is not willing to accept that concept, then we can't work with them anyway.
Yeah. Gracie's scared of everything because I have crippling anxiety. No, that's not why. She's just a weenie.
Bruno is the way he is because I baby him.
Yeah.
I'm a little baby chihuahua, right? You gotta have one dog that you just baby the crap out of, but he's still afraid of everything.
Explain Dante.
I can't explain Dante. Dante has a mental illness. He is just a sociopath in a 9-pound body.
I let him bite my shoe as a treat.
Yeah. We've accepted it. It's not behavior modification, it's behavior acceptance.
Yeah.
So, cool. All right. God, we've been rambling on and on about this, but man, I've been thinking about that first story we talked about with that trainer who killed a bunch of dogs.
The deep freezer is that just gets me. Like, what are you saving it for?
But the thing is, like, the dog that was in the deep freezer, like, there's no, like, story behind where it came from.
Like, if that was people, that'd be Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Like,
if she was eating it.
Well, yeah. I didn't finish
it's just more neglect.
Brendan was watching that Jeffrey Dahmer show, and then he almost killed a dog, and I made him turn it off. There's, like, a scene where I don't think he actually killed it, but I was like, you need to turn that off.
Yeah. I can't watch anything where the dog dies.
No.
But, like, yeah. I've been thinking about it for, like, the past several days, because I can't get it out of my brain. One, the fact that, like, I know this person.
Yeah, like, we met this person.
Right. And, like, just the absolute level of neglect was baffling. Granted, there was two of the other cases we talked about where I know the people, or I've met them at least, acquaintance-wise. But you know what's funny is, like, you're totally right where you just kind of get a bad vibe about somebody.
Yeah.
Because the two other cases, like, that was the case.
Well, I remember, like, when I met the person from the first story, and it's easy for me to exclude the name because honestly I don't even remember it.
Good.
But, like, we were at, like, we were doing stuff, and she made, like, a kind of a rude comment because you had accidentally forgot to, like, write something, like, you're writing down names and you forgot to write her down because she was visiting.
Yeah.
And she, like, was kind of, like, stupid rude about it. Like, it was just an accident.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what set me off first. I was like, what? Like, grow up.
Yeah.
Like, sorry you got forgotten when you're not a regular person
there was someone whose dog had died in a hot car at a working dog event, and, like, this is a person who I had already had a bad vibe about for a long time because in the first interaction I had with the person, they were talking about how their dog was a confirmation dog who had bit the judge which is a no-go, but it's also their service dog who also does protection training. And I'm like, you just gave me like all the red flags in one sentence. I'm like, that's no go. I remember the conversation I had with this person, because you know me, I am so direct and so blunt. Like, I didn't say anything to him. I literally just walked away in the middle of him talking.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm done communicating with this person because this person is just bad news.
I remember listening to like the person that was there telling us the story about when that happened, and that the person whose dog died didn't even get the dog out of the car. Like, they were just like, I mean, I'm sure they were upset, but it was the person that was, this is getting confusing. The person that was telling the story was the one that wrapped the dog in the towel and removed it from the car, and it was full of vomit and diarrhea and all the regular heat related things.
Yeah.
Like,
yep, absolutely. Blows my mind.
that to me is more of guilt than, oh my god, my dog died. Like, you know you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. But then there's like, so, you know, and there's so many more stories that we didn't even talk about. Like, when we're talking about like producing working dogs, like people who like breed, buy, sell working dogs.
Yeah.
They have so many dogs that aren't client dogs. They just belong to them.
Yeah.
And so if those dogs die, which they have, like there's cases recently where dogs have died in this exact situation here in North Carolina.
I know what you're thinking about.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, it's not made public because they're not client dogs. No one's making a big fuss over it. And like, if it's happening to their dogs, you know it's happening to client dogs too.
Yeah. And I feel like someone's going to listen to this and be like, well, I can't afford the car stuff. I can't afford this and that, whatever. And like, I get that to one point, because like I'm kind of a little bit in the same boat where I don't have all the fancy bells and whistles. I mean, I'm 21. I don't have a whole lot of spendable income right now.
I always forget that you're 21.
I know, I'm just mature for my age. And I also have Gordon Ramsay's forehead wrinkles.
Me too.
But it's all that anxiety I keep talking about. Anyway, like, when you buy an animal, the cheapest thing is the animal. You're buying the animal under the guise of, I'm going to feed it and water it and take it to the vet when it decides to do something stupid. You know, so I get a little bit, you know, I don't feel as bad, I don't think, when people are like, oh, I can't afford a crash-proof kennel or something like that. Buy stuff used. You can do it. The Illuminettes were on sale for Prime Day, and I missed it. Bad Kelly.
Way to go.
Or just don't bring your dog. They're fine at home if you can't do it. Or ride with someone that can do that. Before I had my fancy-dancy little SUV, I would put Gracie in other people's cars because I didn't feel safe having her in the kennel in the car setup that I had there. I would just be like, hey, can I put my dog in your car? And people are like, yeah, I don't care. I'm like, I'll clean your kennel. And they're like, sick, my kennel gets cleaned. The hairballs.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So there's really no excuses for dogs overheating in cars and stuff like that.
Yep. So it's scary. Like, you know, do your research, know what's out there, and be aware that like there's a lot of bad dog trainers out there.
Yeah. And,
you know, I feel like every week, every month or so, there's a new dog trainer popping up. Hey, I just moved to the area. Hey, you know, I'm on Facebook, you know, in the comment section of someone looking for a dog trainer. Hey, I'm so-and-so. I just started my dog training company last week, and I want to train your dog.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see them pop up, and that's great. We all start somewhere, but then, like, a few weeks or months down the road, and then they're gone. Yeah. You know, like, if you listen to some of the, you know, high-level dog training podcasts that are out there besides ours.
So popular.
Right, we're getting there.
We are getting popular.
You know, they talk about the fact that, like, 99% of dog training companies don't make it past their first 10 years.
Yeah.
We are now at year 3.5. So we're getting there, which is good. And, you know, I think we're going to make it. But we are already in the top 10% of dog training companies for having made it more than a year. Yay!
Claps and
3 years.
Claps and snaps.
So, you know, it's hard. You know, no one ever said dog training is easy.
Yeah.
I always say that it can be lucrative. You can make a lot of money as a bad dog trainer. You can definitely make a lot more money as a good dog trainer who people trust. So.
And I feel like, you can spit and hit young female dog trainer new to the area posts on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm like, when you're young like that, you really should be working under someone.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? I'm working under you.
Yay. Even though I keep telling you need to start your own business.
I know, but I feel like I've got room to improve before I do that.
So do I.
Yeah.
That's the other question you should ask your dog trainer is, I don't know how you would ask this, but if you get the feeling that they've stopped learning, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Like, I am never done learning, and I think most of the best dog trainers in the world are never done learning.
Yeah.
So.
But, it'd be kind of weird for me to quit now, considering I live with you for a little bit.
That would be awkward.
It'd be really awkward. Can I borrow your garage to run my dog training business?
Is it okay if I run a dog training business in your garage while you're running a dog
I'll
training
just
business?
hang my banner up above yours by the driveway. It'll be fine.
That works. Yeah, that would be weird. Yeah, we live together now. It's so great. It's been awesome.
Yeah, just for a little bit.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps thinking that Brendan and I got divorced or are separating or something. It's
Not yet.
No, we're not. He listens to this. So, no, we're not.
I already told him I'm going to steal his wife. So
he said he would leave me for you, too.
Yeah.
He said, I've seen the car she drives. She'll get me another Oculus.
Hey, you know what? I learned in my past marriages that husbands are expensive.
They are.
So once I got rid of my last husband, dude, like my money just started piling up. I didn't have to pay for him anymore. It was great.
I'm running out of gadgets to buy him. He's already bored with the Oculus we just got.
Jesus.
Like ADHD.
My God. Okay, well, we're getting on a tangent. So yeah. If you have questions, or let's say you're not in the area and you're trying to figure out if the dog trainer that you are looking at is a good one or not, call me. I do not care. I will help you find a dog trainer in your area that I trust, that you can trust, and I will even give you a list of questions to ask them.
Or if you need help picking out a good dog that's a fit for you too. We're happy to help that.
Absolutely. I've had people call me saying they're looking for dogs or a dog trainer, and free of charge, I will write up a 5-page essay on what you need to know to make sure that you are all set. So I'm happy to do that. I'm just here to help. I want everyone to have the best life with their dog. So,
or a book list. Ashley loves giving book lists. So.
Oh my God, I give book lists. I give out books. I just want everyone to be awesome with their dogs.
The day I walked in with my suitcase, she gave me 5 books. She will give you a book list.
So cool. And if I get a whole bunch of people asking me to be my next apprentice,
you can blame me.
Yeah, or I can just make you their guide, their mentor. Okay, you're gonna be Kelly's apprentice.
I'll be like, hi, the dog pooped in the kennel. Have fun. Good morning.
That is part of apprenticing, is cleaning kennels.
It is.
All right, so I think one of the next podcasts we're gonna do hopefully is gonna be on breeders. I need to call my breeder and see if she'll join us, but I would like to have some guests on here, so if you'd like to be a guest, give us a call, shoot us a message, we'll coordinate that. I don't care if you're a brand new dog owner or if you've been in the game for a while or you're in some weird gray area between beginner and professional. Give us a call. I'd love to have you on the show. And Kelly, you got anything?
Just, follow the socials, check us out. We post informational stuff, we post goofy stuff.
Yeah.
We do everything.
I love your funny posts.
I love my funny posts too.
I was looking at the one for the rain cancellation with Tinky
and Scooter.
Yeah, that was my favorite. So, I'm really bad at plugging the socials, but follow us. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Contact at airbornecanine.com for any emails. Send us your pictures, anything. We'd love to have you. But I guess that's all. Talk to you next time. Enjoy your day with your dog.